Alright, so I usually don't recommend buying fully manual lenses or special type lenses like the fisheye or, for example, this macro lens, because for beginners it's quite a challenge. But if you've decided to buy one, and especially this one, the Pergear 60mm f2.8 macro, then let's take a closer look of its quality and what challenges you're gonna have if you buy this lens, so you're not disappointed, so you're well prepared. Let's go. Alright, so this particular lens comes for 4 different mounts, for Fuji X mount, Sony E mount, as well as Nikon Z mount and the Micro Four Thirds. And on a classic APS-C camera like this Sony a6000, the 60mm lens will be approximately 90mm. And regarding the build quality, you know, it's quite solid. It's super heavy. I think it's more than 600 grams and it's fully metal built. There is no weather sealing or anything like that. It is very, very simple. What you basically get is 2 things. It's the aperture ring, so you can control all the way from f2.8 to f16. And then you have a really, really big focus ring. And it actually is quite good the way it's made. One thing I need to mention you regarding the macro. So a true macro lens is when the magnification ratio is 1:1. And that's the most typical macro lenses come in that setup, which means that the object that you have or you're taking photo of will be represented on the sensor on that exact same size, meaning 1:1. This particular lens actually shoots 2:1. That means any object that you are photographing will be displayed on a sensor twice as big. And this is very rare. This is a really big plus side for this lens. However, it comes at a cost. Well, first of all, don't get fooled. This is f2.8 lens, so you might think, oh yeah, it's really bright and really nice, but actually it is not really bright, because just see how it's built. And I don't know if any other macro lens is built in this way, but this one is. So basically what is happening is that when you are focusing in and out, the lens itself, it seems like this whole part is sort of like a tube, like an extension tube, I would say, and the lens itself moves back and forth inside. At least that's how I interpret it, because if I'm just moving it around back and forth, you can really see how the lens is sliding in and out. And you know, that is one of the costs, is that when you actually have that lens moving back and forth, not enough light gets in. So I was taking some photos here on the table, like for example this photo, and what I had to use is a lot of light. Luckily I have this really nice big softbox and very, very powerful light from Pixel. Thank you for them for sending this light. I've been using it in all my videos and I really love it. And it's a total overkill. Right now I'm using it at maybe 30%, right? So I had to crank it up to 100% and put the light really, really close, and actually used some other lights in order to have enough light for the image, because it gets really dark. Even if I was taking the photos outside in a full bright daylight, this lens also required me to crank up the shutter speed all the way to 1600. So this is something you'll need to take into consideration. Another thing that you have to be aware of is the minimal focus distance, and at 2:1 magnification, the most minimal focus distance is 19 centimeters, and you have to measure those 19 centimeters from this mark where your sensor is, and so you measure it. So basically it's not from the end of the lens and 19 centimeters, it's from here. What does that mean? It means that you have to get really close to the subject. I mean, really close. It's just like a couple of centimeters. You really need to move close to the subject in order to take a photo, because that's when the reproduction of that 2:1 will be, and that's where the focus is gonna be. What does that mean for you? If you're trying to take pictures of animals, butterflies, bees and stuff like that, I saw a couple of sample pictures and I don't know how people did it, because you have to get so close and I just can't. They just fly away. I'm maybe too loud, or I don't know, because it also takes time until you know, get to find the focus and everything and set the ISO. So be aware that I don't think this macro lens is the best for that kind of scenario where you want to take pictures of live creatures. I think it's much better of some static objects. Also because it doesn't have optical steady stabilization, it doesn't have autofocus, it will take time until you will focus perfectly, put all the settings and take a photo. So even I was taking pictures of these couple of berries and you see a couple of pictures actually came out quite blurry because either they were moving and the tiniest shake already, you know, in this magnification will mean a lot. Either they were shaking or they were, you know, my hands were moving back and forth. So it was really hard. It was much easier to take the pictures in a controlled environment, like of this Velcro strap, for example, I took, or a tip of a pine cone. All that came out pretty well. Not that you can understand what it is. You probably should use the focus stacking, but you know, the results were quite good. One other thing I need to mention is because they have this front element, when the lens is moved back and forward, I think this front element is meant to protect, I don't know what, from things getting in there. It means it can get dirty, and it does get dirty, and that's fine. You know, all the lenses have little drops of little dust, but since you are trying to focus on these magnifications, you actually focus on those dusts, or you get to see that dust. And look at these pictures, as you can see here in the background and on the side, there's like, looks like a freaking hair or something. There's a lot of elements, and that you need to wipe that lens all the time, which I'm too lazy to do, or you actually need to clean up the image in Lightroom. That is something to take into consideration. Regarding the sharpness, I looked at a couple of reviews. People were really bashing this lens. I think it's relatively sharp. And by the way, you can use this lens also outside of a normal macro setup. You can use it for sort of street photography or portraits and all other things. And as you can see in these examples, the sharpness, I believe, is quite well. But there's one thing that you need to be aware of, and that is that it's really hard to focus, because when it comes to focusing on objects that are further, and especially like landscapes and stuff, forget it. I barely get like 20-30% of the shots in focus. The rest were completely out of focus, even with the magnification in camera, you know, even with the focus peaking, all the things, it says, you know, it's kind of in focus, but you move it a little bit and you're done. And you have to remember, this is, right now they're selling it under $200, $199 for this lens. So I don't think it's the most expensive one, and I think for what you pay, I think it's kind of fine. Quality wise, like the build quality and the sharpness. What I really dislike about this lens is the darkness of it and the fact that it's kind of moving back and forth. And also I use this lens also for videos. Here are some examples. One thing to note, since it is a macro lens, you will not be able to focus pull or stuff like that, because first of all, you're gonna move the lens a lot, and also there's quite a lot of focus breathing. So you could use it for videos only for like stills, when you put it on a tripod, very sturdy tripod, and the object is still, and then, you know, maybe you can crop in and make the movement in post-production, but otherwise static shots only. You shouldn't expect too much from this lens. It's a $200 lens, and it's a very specific lens. So buy only if you need. If you're looking this video, you probably are checking it out. I've read some comments. People say that it's probably one of the best lenses to buy regarding this for the budget. But I'm not sure. I'm like 50-50. I just wanted to make this video for you guys to see what problems will arise. So it's not like you buy the lens and think, okay, it's gonna be amazing and perfect. It is really hard to take photos with this lens. Be aware of that. And it has a lot of these kind of challenges, issues, whatever you want to call. So just be aware of that, and good luck in your hunt for a macro lens if you need, because some cost like $1,000. Yeah, so $200. Judge for yourself if you like it, if you're satisfied with what you saw with all the examples. And yeah, Tom Surex here as always, my friends. I'll probably see you in another video. Oh, and don't forget to keep on creating.